All right, so we're here today at PAR and interviewing Mr. Michael Durkin, who is a self-advocate with InVision and who wanted to be with us today, but unfortunately was not able to make the trip. So, Michael, I'm wondering if you could tell our attendees at the PAR conference a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Michael Durkin. I'm 32 and I've been with InVision for approximately 11 years.
Great.
I'm here today to help others advocate for themselves.
Great. And this isn't your first time presenting at PAR, is it?
No, it's not. This is actually my second time. My first time I was a big hit with everyone.
Yep. You presented with Sean McGill with InVision talking about problematic sexual behaviors. And now we're back today to talk about how we reduce supervision for people with complex needs, challenging behaviors. So I'm wondering why you think this is important. What do we need to keep in mind with supervision reduction?
Well, things to keep in mind with supervision reduction is that if something goes wrong, it can go majorly wrong.
Yep.
Not only can your client be going to jail or something like that, but also the worker that's with them. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a lot of vulnerability and potential for bad things to happen, especially if people, if we reduce supervision and people engage in illegal activities in the community. What would be some examples of some illegal activities a person could get in trouble for in the community?
People may go into public urination, yelling at strangers.
Sometimes people may have difficulty respecting authority as well and may not have those skills yet to be able to recognize who's in charge, so that could get them into trouble. So even though there are a lot of risks, it seems like there can also be some rewards for reducing supervision. I'm wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit about how reducing supervision has been a good thing for you. What have you gotten out of it?
Over the years in InVision, I've had many supervision reductions. Right now I am able to go to church, my friend's house, my family's house, and I'm also allowed to have 2 hours of free time in the house by myself.
Great.
Of course, all that came in little steps.
Does it feel different for you now that staff aren't with you all the time?
Actually, yes, it does. I feel that I have more freedom of what I do and what I don't do. I do know that I have to abide by the rules, which is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, self-management is something that we've worked on for a long time, not only with you, but with a number of people that we support. And you've received support in a variety of different placements throughout your lifetime. I'm wondering if there were ever any placements that you were at that helped you to become the person you are, and people within those placements that helped you.
I was in a program in 2001 that was an RTF. That is where I came out with the sexual deviant problems that I had. And they took that very well. They listened to me. They told me where to go from here.
Great. And then from there, I think you were in Florida at a placement, correct?
Yeah, in Florida, there was a very structured setting there.
And then you went on to a hospital setting.
Yeah, from there I went to a hospital in PA. There I got to do more independent things, including smoking, which I loved.
And it was a surprise to me to hear how much freedom you had when we thought about the hospital setting. And then from that placement you came to InVision.
Yeah.
And you've had a couple of different homes at InVision. What has living with InVision been like for you?
InVision has gotten me to the point that I'm very independent. Which is my goal.
So now that you're at InVision and you're working on those goals, you've had a lot of success. But before we get to that, what were some of the challenges that you faced in your past, things that got in your way, or diagnoses and problems that you were experiencing that led to all those placements?
I was diagnosed with autism at a young age.
And then you went into some placements where they had some rules, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of strict and tight-end supervision in a lot of my placements.
And some of those placements came I know for me, when I first started reading your psychological evaluations, your histories, the stuff I read in there was not of the guy I'm sitting with today.
Definitely not.
You've talked to me a little bit about some of the things that happened to you in these placements that didn't help you to reach your goals.
Right.
I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about that, things that staff did that didn't work for you.
Things that staff did at these placements were very detrimental to myself were the fact that they yelled at me, they restrained me, they didn't explain things well enough for me.
Sure. And you mentioned your diagnosis of autism earlier. I think one of the things that I've learned about you is that you learn a little bit differently, and when we talk to one another, we have to be thoughtful about that.
Right.
You now have some people in your life that are helping you and who have helped you over the years. What are some of the things that are working or things that have gone well recently when it comes to how people have supported you?
My current clinical specialist and I sat down and actually wrote my service plan. That is not, my words from that are now being taught to my workers so they can handle me better.
Yeah, it's interesting to read this support plan compared to ones you had in the past, because when I read it, I hear your voice loud and clear through the documents. So overall, you've had challenges in your life, you've overcome so many obstacles, and you've had your supervision reduced. So how do you think the addition of reducing your supervision has contributed to your overall success as an independent man?
I now have freedom. I have the power to be an advocate for myself and others. And the best part of it, I get to be a godfather to one of my nephews. And actually, I'm allowed to be around both of them without anyone.
Great. That was a big area for you to have to overcome.
Yes, it is.
And I know that there were points in your treatment when you didn't think it was possible.
Right.
And here we are today. So, given your success, I'm wondering what it is that you would want to share with others who might be nervous about reducing their supervision, how we can help them to think more positively.
Well, you just said it. You have to think positive. If you don't think positive, nothing's going to happen. And another thing that I don't have in here is that you need to think for yourself. If you have other people thinking for you, you're going to get their dreams, not your dreams.
Well, thank you, Michael, for joining us today, and thank you, everybody up here, for giving Michael a moment of your time.